Welcome to a video called The Worst Trends in Modern Cars. Now this is a great topic because it's going to get the community involved. Everybody can kind of throw their opinion at this. And after being in and out of hundreds of cars, new and old, knowing mechanics, working in the tech field, I feel extremely confident about this list. So let's get started. All right, let's start with a hot topic. Fake engine noise. What is it? It's when a manufacturer decides that their engine does not sound good or it's not loud enough for the driver. So they synthesize a fake tone and play it through the car's speakers on the interior. Now, companies like BlackBerry have a piece of QNX software that they sell to manufacturers so they can load it up on a computer and design all the engine noises they want. And then they load it into usually the car's infotainment, which handles the processing of it. So the thing with this is modern turbocharged motors really don't sound like anything, and you can kind of hear it in racing. Once Formula One went to turbocharged cars, they lost a lot of their resonance, let me just put it that way. So the good thing is certain manufacturers do it really well, like Hyundai is starting to do it good, and you can turn it off through the infotainment. Other manufacturers, like the Lexus RCF, it's just baked in, you can't turn it off. And it just is one of these mind-boggling things that they're doing that's mostly unnecessary and really cheesy. The next one really tickles me the wrong way. And like many things on this list, it's manufacturers doing things for the sake of it, not actually to improve anything. Electronic door handles. And what is it? Well, it's a handle that goes flush with the vehicle that you can't grab physically until it pops out at you. And this has a big wow factor, supposedly. And all this engineering has had to go into designing this door handle so it doesn't stick or get frozen shut in the winter. And they're even doing testing on this. The big question is, why? It's just one more thing to break. And with all the money being poured into something like that, companies like Jaguar and Land Rover, maybe they should be putting that money into making their cars more reliable instead of gimmicks. Let's get on to the next one. Ah yes, stuck-on infotainment screens. And what is it? It's when a manufacturer decides they no longer want to mold the dashboard around the screen. So what do? They just stick a screen on top of the dashboard. Problem solved. It's the epitome of laziness, cost-cutting, and lack of creativity, for a better word. Now, I understand why they do it. It's more expensive to mold the dashboard around a screen like they do in the Alfa Romeo Giulia and some of the Lexus vehicles. But so many car companies are stuck in this monkey see, monkey do world of, well, that one's doing it, a big manufacturer's doing it, so we're going to do it too. And it is just looks so cheap and afterthought. This has to go away eventually, please. This next topic I could go on about for probably 57 hours. Overcomplicated technology. And spending most of my career in user experience, there's one thing I've learned. You have to keep it simple. The more complicated you make it, the worse it is and the more excuses and complaints you're going to get. In the car world, I really feel bad for new owners, especially those that are not tech savvy. The biggest thing is there's no standardization in safety systems. There's no standardization in technology. Every car and every manufacturer thinks they can do it better. Or worse, they half-ass it just to pad a spec sheet so they can sell more vehicles. You don't know where things are buried at in a touchscreen. Is it in the touchscreen? Is it in the gauge cluster? Is it on the side of my seat? Is it on the center stack to the left of me? It is an absolute mess. And again, some of this stuff is just added there just to be there, not because it needs to be. I think where you're going to start to go is manufacturers are going to start to make an excuse. We don't even need a windshield anymore. We're just going to put 20 cameras on a car and then stick a screen in front of you so you don't have to look outside through glass. And I feel like this is a trend that needs to die. Things need to get simple again. The next one is a biggie, infotainment. And it's not that the whole concept's bad, it's just usually the implementation is lacking. I sat down with my Honda Acura rep, Jessica, and she's great. She was showing me the new RDX, or the Acura RDX interface. And I asked her a simple question, like I ask many people. Has there ever been a car or truck that you used the infotainment and it was so good that you had to buy that vehicle? And the answer, 9 out of 10 times, is no, probably more than that. And it's just so telling. So many of these systems, they're trying to pack 50 pounds of shit in a 5-pound bag. There's so much, it's so complicated and so difficult to use when you're driving, it makes it pointless. Not only that, they're starting to remove physical controls that we've had forever, volume knobs, tuning knobs, physical controls for heating and air conditioning and moving them to touch screens. And this is where infotainment completely falls apart. And the worst thing is manufacturers still are not committed to updating this over the course of 5 to 10 years. They're making them very disposable. And now that cars have telematics built into infotainment, which is always connected to the internet, what's going to stop hackers from getting in there to totally jack up your car when they can get past the firewall from some exploit in 10 years? And they're not supporting it. The next one is oversized wheels and tires, or big wheel and tire combos. And to be fair to manufacturers, this is mostly consumer driven. They get to the dealership, they see those 18, 19, 20 or larger wheels and tires, and they're like, whoa, I gotta have them. Well, here's the thing. Tires are a part of the suspension setup. And to do it right, you have to retune dampers or use adaptive dampers. Now you're adding more complication and cost. You're going to retune bushings and certain things in terms of design. And that's a lot of work. And the thing is that when you get over bad pavement, you have less sidewall you're dealing with, which means a harsher, firmer ride. The second thing is it's easier to damage a wheel over a pothole. And the last and most important thing that people don't get is the cost. You go to a tire center and I see people complain that they don't want to spend $70 on a new tire. Get me a used one. I don't want to spend $70. Go try replacing that 19-inch wheel and tire for $250 and see how it is. Again, it's one of these fads, and we'll see if it goes away. All right, the next one is pretty big if you watch my videos, and a lot of people complain about this. Piano gloss black shiny trim on the interior of a car, or plastichrome. And I'm just gonna ask you this. If you're at home, how would you like to have a door handle shiny black plastic, or your kitchen table or countertop, or anything you interact that's shiny black in a high traffic area? You know the side effect of this. It's gonna be constantly dirty and easily scratched. So you wouldn't do it at home. Why would you do it on a car interior surface? Second thing is the plastichrome. It's plastic that's shiny. It's the cheapest material, but adds a little bit of brightness. And what does it do when you put it all over? Well, something called sunlight shines on it, and it turns into a blinding agent when you're driving. Stupidest trends ever. The next trend is turbo everything. Just put a turbo on it and be done. I mean, it's just the huge buzzword, and even though they've been around for about 6 billion years. Now, they used to be used more in performance applications than they still are, and there had to be great thought to how you design a car around it, because you had to deal with heat dissipation, cooling, oil feed lines, extra coolant capacity, and that's a lot of complication. But the thing is, with today's modern fuel economy standards, emission standards, and the fact that customers are no longer happy with just 130 horsepower naturally aspirated 4-cylinder, they want it all. So the manufacturers, well, the cheapest way to do it, slap a turbo on these cars. Thing is, it does add that complication there, namely on the cheaper vehicles. Like Scott was telling me about the Chevy Cruze he had in, has a seized up turbo. It's a known issue. They have oil feed line issues and coolant leak problems with them. And this is the type of crap, part of it is the regulations, part of it is customer expectation, and part of it is just manufacturers, they're so desperate to sell cars, they're so reactive instead of proactive at just throwing something out there before it's proven. And that's why a lot of these vehicles are more disposable. The next trend that is so cheesy is fake vents and fake exhaust tips. And this has been going on for a while, but in modern cars, you're starting to see it because With direct injected motors, there's a lot more soot on the exhaust, so it gets the exhaust tips all dirty and you have to clean it. They're always black. So instead, they're blowing the exhaust on the ground now where you don't see the exhaust and then putting fake exhaust tips on, which make absolutely no sense. And then you have fake vents. Fake vents on many cars, like the new Kia Stinger in the hood. I don't get it, it's stupid. Fake vents on like the Civics. I mean, it's just a trend that you're starting to see on more cars that, that's a snoozer. All right, the last one I'm pretty sure everybody can relate with, and it's not just the automotive market. It's the truth in advertising and marketing. And I can't tell you all the cringeworthy ads and commercials you see nowadays for cars. From the Chevy commercials, where they're basically flat out lying or talking about these awards that mean absolutely nothing, perceived quality on a vehicle that hasn't even been out in a year. Like, things like this are just nonsense. Or the words and buzzwords they're using to describe things. Everything's premium. Everything's best in class, or best in segment, or award winning, or industry first, or dynamic efficiency, or dynamic this, all the crap that they spin to make things sound better than they really are. And it's silly. And I guess in the real world, when you're bombarded with thousands of products, how do you differentiate yourself? Well, hopefully you're not buying into a lot of the crap. But thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. Obviously, if you have more, add to the list in the comments. And then keep in mind, you know what? These manufacturers aren't trying to do bad stuff. They're just trying to make products that people buy. Some have a lot of heart in them, some don't. Some things, people's hands are tied. You know, government regulations, what customers demand can make things really quirky and weird or stupid. You know, it's just more of a fun discussion and also hopefully a helpful one. Take care.
This savage geese, I hate him, I hate him. I'm gonna show you how to get back at him on Yelp and all that other stuff.